Is there any further message you have for humanity with regards to this and what ultimately it means for us as an awakening population coming into the knowledge that everything isn't as it should be?
Well, it's very difficult. I wish I could give you an easy answer to that. You have to be, on a personal level, you have to be very determined and very courageous, and you have to know your facts, and if possible you need documentary evidence, at least, perhaps not necessarily about the crime, but certainly about any cover-up that may have occurred by the authorities. It's terribly difficult. It's been a very hard road. What I will say is that we've had success. We brought 2 senior people down in Scotland over this. And although I haven't mentioned this during the interview, of course, Anne and Hollie have since been persecuted in England as well. And we've been able to get rid of a person called Councillor Aggie Caesar-Homden, who was in charge of the Child and Adult Protection Unit in Shropshire. And she was, we believe, largely but not solely to blame for the persecution of Anne and Hollie in Shropshire. I was determined to take her on at a public meeting, which she's bound to attend at some point. And a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 1st of November, I arranged to go to a meeting where she was supposed to be one of the main speakers in the village where Anne and Hollie live, as it happens. And we got there, and we sat down, and we had a full house because we'd leafleted the village about the case, so local villagers wanted to find out what was going on. And the chairman announced, of the Councillor Caesar-Homden, there was no sign. And as the meeting was about to commence, the chairman welcomed everybody, declared the meeting open, and said, I have an announcement to make. I must announce the resignation of Councillor Aggie Caesar-Homden.
Oops.
The villagers were on great form, rather than myself or some of the other interested parties who'd come along, and they said, is it anything to do with that leaflet that's been going round, Hollie Greig? And the chairman said, I can't possibly answer that, I can't possibly answer that. But I think everybody knew the answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got rid of 3 people who are involved in the persecution of Anne and Hollie Greig. What I can tell to other people is just very, very difficult. You have to be very determined. But you can win. We're winning. We haven't won yet. We really, really can't count our chickens. It's going to take a lot of pressure, and we know that we're going to be subject to all kinds of threats and dirty tricks and goodness knows what. We're going to have saboteurs. We're going to have people wanting to put me in jail again. All kinds of things are going to go on yet. There's going to be threats against Anne and Hollie. There'll be more threats against them, I'm absolutely sure. It's a rough road and we haven't finished yet. But if you're prepared to take all the knocks and you really believe in the justice of your cause, and you can get good friends and supporters the way that Hollie and Anne have been able to do, then you can win. And I hope that when we are successful, and I believe we will be, this will open up the dam. The dam will have broken through, and lots of other people who felt totally demoralised and have been victims of the most terrible crimes might think, well, they can do it, maybe we can do it if we're determined enough, and I'm sure that they can. And I do believe that this incredibly exaggerated attempts to actually stop this case, you think of all the money and all the people who are involved in the most senior positions to try and cover this up, means that they are terrified of this case breaking through, not because it's just Hollie Greig and the other victims in Aberdeen. I believe that the authorities know also that if this gets through, then a lot of other people are going to come charging through the gap as well in their particular cases. And this is going to be a disaster for all those people in high positions who are actively covering up for paedophile crime. And we know who quite a few of them are, I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Robert, any one last message for humanity?
Well, all I can say is just follow your conscience. I think it's better to die doing something bravely than to die a coward. That's a simple thing. It's not all that easy to follow because we're not always brave all the time, and I'm certainly not. I've chickened out of a few things in my time, but I'm not going to chicken out on this one. It's too important. Yeah. So all I would say is just follow your conscience and do the very best you can. But in this particular instance, it's so important to protect children and the disabled who are so cruelly being abused by these awful, evil people, and they really are evil. And as I said at the beginning of the interview, what I know goes way beyond what I brought into the public domain. It is absolutely horrifying. It is pure evil. But this is happening. It's not just happening to Hollie and the other children. I believe this is happening on a very wide scale. I can't verify that because it's not my case, but I've every reason to believe, because of the sheer volume number of people who've approached me with quite a lot of very convincing information, that this is happening on a big scale. So just think about the children, just think about the future. These people have to be stopped. It will take courage, but once we get a breakthrough, I believe these people will be well and truly on the run, and let's hope that they get their justice.
As a journalist,
yes.
What does freedom and freedom of speech mean to you, and how do you perceive your role in that?
Well, again, it's a tricky question. Yeah. Asking very intellectual questions, which may be beyond my orbit. What I would say is that we've got to really fight very hard to protect our freedoms. There is no such thing as a free press in the Western world anymore. I think people are being misinformed. They think they're living in democracies. They think they're living in places where you can speak personally freely, and where journalists can speak freely. Well, they can't. Have a message for everyone that they can't. We can get this freedom back, but we're going to have to fight for it, and we're going to have to overthrow all these very powerful people who have bent the legal systems of various countries, not just Scotland, not just the UK, to their own will. And these people want to suppress freedom. All journalists should stand up against this. And I do appeal to people from the mainstream, don't be listening to what your editors might be saying. And I can tell you there's a few editors, and I know why they're trying to cover this up, because they've got a lot to answer for themselves. Follow your own conscience on this, because most people are good. Most journalists are decent people like anybody else. The journalists are no better or no worse than any other cross-section of the population, in my opinion. We've all got consciences. But if you can't do something to protect the children and the disabled, the most vulnerable members in society, then what are you doing as a journalist? You're pretending to do a proper job. I don't think you are if you haven't got the guts to stand up. That's my
Robert, let me tell you, when we went to South Africa, I met with numerous journalists from every major newspaper, even the smaller ones, and absolutely nothing. I mean, not one single journalist that I gave the story to ended up putting it. And how many commissioning editors said, sorry, we're not going to run the story. I'm like, how can you not run the story? Yeah. How can you not run the story? Yes. There's the link, here's the journalist, here's the evidence. Do yourself a favour, search it for yourself.
Curiously enough, more people in China know about the story than they do in Aberdeen. It's on China, isn't China now? Yeah, oh yeah. I've seen on Google. It was one of the speeches I made in Liverpool, which went onto YouTube. It somehow got to the Chinese, and it's all there with kind of subtitles. There's a Chinese bloke dubbing my voice.
Goodness me!
And I'm there speaking about it, and Hollie Greig.
Well, it's great because in China they find all off the internet, don't they?
Yes. But people in China, people in Pakistan know about it. People in India. People in Palestine know about this case, but it's not nobody in very few people, relatively speaking. They do now, actually. It's coming through thanks to the alternative media. But for a long time, people all over the world knew about this story, but the people in the city where the children are most at risk and where the crimes were committed knew nothing about it. Free country, free democracy, free, fearless press. Well, they're fearless in a way. I mean, they really attack some people of great power and influence like Jordan and Cheryl Cole and Wayne Rooney, don't they? Oh, they have a go at them, all right, you know.
That's to keep us distracted.
Yeah, exactly. I always pull the leg over that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really go for the really big people. We can't really criticise you too much.
Robert, your family must be incredibly proud of you, and I must just say it's an honour and a privilege to have you give us a proper interview today. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
We honestly do hope that you'll continue with your commitment to Anne and Hollie, and do keep in touch with us and let us know the updates as they come along.
I'd be delighted to do so.
And we obviously do hope to work with you again sometime soon.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this terrible case. It's very welcome, and thank you for your courage in doing that, because you need courage to come and do this as well. I know what it takes.
Absolutely, Robert, and you know it's because we all work together that I have the courage to do this. I couldn't do it alone without people like yourself, without David, without the stellar info warriors who inspire me at every given point not to give up.
Yes. Well, we have some people, of course Jim Core, who's been absolutely wonderful, you know. And if I may say, it is a great pity that more people who have huge followings in the public, people who are famous musicians, singers, performers, actors, It's a great pity that more of them don't follow Jim Corr's example and stand up. You know, it would make enormous influence. We've got problems with the media, we've got problems with the politicians, but I think if some of the famous people who have a lot of great support would actually come and speak out just to help us out, I think it would go a long way. We need more Jim Corrs, that's for sure.
Absolutely. We need more Robert Greens. Thank you very much for your time today, Robert. It's been an honour and a privilege.
Thank you very much indeed, Mel. Thank you. Been able to get rid of a person called Councillor Aggie Caesar Homden, who was in charge of the Child and Adult Protection Unit in Shropshire, and she was, we believe, largely but not solely to blame for the persecution of Anne and Hollie in Shropshire. I was determined to take her on at a public meeting, which she's bound to attend at some point, and of the Councillor Caesar Homden there was no sign. And as the meeting was about to commence, the chairman welcomed everybody, declared the meeting open, and said, I have an announcement to make. I must announce the resignation of Councillor Aggie Caesar Homden.
Oops.
The villagers were on great form, rather than myself or some of the other interested parties who'd come along, and they said, is it anything to do with that leaflet that's been going around?
Is there any further message you have for humanity with regards to this and what ultimately it means for us as an awakening population coming into the knowledge that everything isn't as it should be?
Well, it's very difficult. I wish I could give you an easy answer to that. You have to be, on a personal level, you have to be very determined and very courageous, and you have to know your facts, and if possible you need documentary evidence. A couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 1st of November, I arranged to go to a meeting where she was supposed to be one of the main speakers in the village where Anne and Hollie live, as it happens. And we got there, and we sat down, and we had a full house because we'd leafleted the village about the case, so local villagers wanted to find out what was going on. And the chairman announced, at least, perhaps not necessarily about the crime, but certainly about any cover-up that may have occurred by the authorities. It's terribly difficult. It's been a very hard road. What I will say is that we've had success. We've brought 2 senior people down in Scotland over this. And although I haven't mentioned this during the interview, of course, Anne and Hollie have since been persecuted in England as well. And we